IIT Bombay में पढ़ाने का तरीका, you might also see it's quite interesting where we get assignments and all those stuffs. So I used to have other subjects also. This subject also I used to have assignments from this subject, other subjects.
Okay, Sanyam, so what we'll do is थोड़ा राउंड्स के बारे में बात कर लेते हैं, ठीक है? उसके बाद आप प्रिपरेशन स्ट्रेटजी की बात करेंगे। तो सबसे बेसिक क्वेश्चन मेरे दिमाग में ये आ रहा है कि AI रिसर्चर के MX में how many rounds did you have?
So there were 4 rounds.
I see. Okay.
And तो ऐसा था कि MX में it's like कि you don't have a knockout round. So MX में you'll have all the 4 rounds and then you will get a cumulative decision. So you'll have to go through all those 4 rounds. So it's not like कि आप एक स्टेप से दूसरे स्टेप से तीसरे स्टेप जाते हो. There are 4 panels and you have to go through all of them. So first round was basically it was like you have to present your work, any of the work that you've done पहले, be it any machine learning, deep learning or whatever. So related to machine learning or deep learning only. Yeah, so anything that you have worked on for previously. So कोई भी project आपने किया हो अपने institute में, अपने office में, या फिर self project. So you just need to have that in the presentation mode and explain करने आना चाहिए कि आपने क्या किया. They'll ask you questions and those questions can be like detailed also. So मैंने अपना एक work present कर दिया था जो that I did in IIT Bombay. So they asked me few questions related to that particular work only and I think that went quite well. So उसमें like whole of the team actually. So whichever the team, so I was being reached out by a team specifically in AMEX. So उस team के सारे बंदे थे उस call में when I was presenting. So anyone can get up and ask you any questions, be it the director, a manager or anyone. So that is the first round.
Thanks for bringing this out. Basically, AI researcher, this is very important. Like this is not the general trend that we see in any data science interview or software engineering where you get to present your work, right? You just go. Right. You should have that skill कि आपने ये research किया है, आपने इस problem statement को tackle कैसे get to know your thinking and your approach, right? पहला round तो हो गया.
वही, yeah.
है ना?
So that was basically that कि what they gauge from that is obviously your communication skills obviously come into picture. Whether, and it's not about how fluent you are in English or Hindi or something like that. It's just that whatever you have done should be reachable to the audience that is sitting there. So that is the whole point of that particular thing. And what approach did you use and why did you go to that approach? So they get to gauge those thinkings there and your communication skills. So that is one of the things, because that's what you will do as a researcher in future. Because whatever the thing you'll prepare or that thing, you'll obviously demo it somewhere, right? As a POC or something, as we talked about. So that was the first round. Yeah.
I mean, basically makes sense also. Basically, you need to convey your idea. I know, like how well you are good at it. Okay. पहला round तो बड़ा अच्छा हो गया. I know there are no elimination rounds. So round 2 में क्या हुआ था?
So yeah, for me, I'll go by the order itself that happened with me. Actually, there's no particular order, but जैसे जैसे मेरे साथ पता, I'll tell that. So then the director who was there, basically one level above the manager. So he took one of my interviews. So उस round में it was like all application oriented. It was not कि ML के ये concept, mathematical formula or something like that, right? So one of the questions that I remember from there is it's basically कि आप के पास बहुत सारा streaming data है, and then you have like fixed RAM or obviously in your system. So how would you go about it? So how would you then handle the data? What would you do? What is the technique that you use for that? So these are the kinds of questions that came up वो director वाले interview में, right? And then obviously there were some questions, some basic questions, and AMEX में what I observed, or generally what I observed, I had given other interviews also. So you don't need to have mathematical answers directly. What you need to have is the intuition behind anything, right? So no one comes behind your back कि नहीं मुझे इसका mathematical formula चाहिए. If you are able to explain that concept in a way जो intuitively आसान हो, or whatever the way that you know it intuition के हिसाब से, that is the main thing. You don't need to by heart सब चीज का formula. Obviously कुछ कुछ छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं जिसका formula you need to know, but mostly all of the concepts you have to have the intuition. So इसमें भी and there's nothing like कि आप कुछ गलत बोल दो या फिर ये. So they basically gauge कि आप solution पे कैसे पहुंच रहे हो. तो आपने गलत बोल दिया, they'll help you out कि I think you are going somewhere wrong here. Then you put your thinking cap on, and then आप सोचते हो, then you come to a different solution, and it goes on like this. So this I observed in all of the interviews. There is nothing कि एक question पूछा और उसका एक आंसर है, वो नहीं है. आप अपने हिसाब से कोई भी आंसर बोलो. It should just convey your idea to the interviewer.
It's actually important that you brought that up. Ki actually, if you go wrong somewhere, the interviewer actually helps you. Ki nahi Sanyam or like nahi Prince. This maybe you can think this way, right? Or maybe what if we introduce so and so variable, or what if we so and so condition, what will happen, right? They actually help it, right?
Oh, so ये तो है ही है. मतलब कभी भी मतलब हम भी डरते थे कि यार क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे, हमें नहीं आता तो हम क्या बोलेंगे. एंड आई थिंक यू कैन बी वेरी फ्रैंक अबाउट दिस थिंग कि अगर आपको उसके बारे में एक ही लाइन आती है तो यू कैन से दैट एंड यू कैन जस्ट लेट द इंटरव्यूअर नो कि नो I am not comfortable in this topic, or I just know this about this. Don't go haywire here and there. Otherwise, आप उस loop में फंस जाओगे. They'll then dig into those things, और आप गलत पे गलत बोलते जाओगे. So if you are not very confident, or if you are not like even 80%, 90% confident, तब आप you just say जितना आपको पता है, and then just say give it up कि नहीं, I know only this much. I know only this much. I think I'll take that up after the interview.
Okay. Makes sense. Cool. Yeah. That's very good point. Cool. Round 2 हो गया direct second round director के साथ मस्त. Okay, what happened in round 3 then? Story अच्छा build हो रहा है.
Yeah. So round 3 was like with the manager itself. So who is my manager currently? So उनके साथ ही था. There were 2 people there. So it covered quite a few basics. Like it covered all the things like linear algebra, statistics, probability, ML, DL. So basically statistics में कुछ questions like जैसे central limit theorem. And now it's not about कि आप central limit theorem का formula बताओ या फिर central limit theorem के आप mathematical चीजें बताओ. आप central limit theorem को use कैसे करोगे? How is it used? फिर hypothesis testing वाली चीजें, why is it used, why is it important, and you'll get all this. It's everywhere. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपसे कुछ नया ही पूछ लिया गया. It's everywhere. Hypothesis testing क्यों use होता है, what is the use of it. Then distributions in statistics. So these all were kind of the questions in statistics that were asked कि, और उसमें भी नो मैथमेटिकल फॉर्मूला, एज आई ऑलरेडी सेड. कुछ ऐसा नहीं है, आप अपना इंट्यूटिवली बताओ. टिल देन डिग थोड़ा डीपर. यू हैव टू जस्ट गिव आउट कि आप कैसे सोचते हो, व्हाट इज द थिंग दैट यू थिंक ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर कॉन्सेप्ट. देन कमिंग अप टू लिनियर अलजेब्रा, आइगन वैल्यूज, आइगन वेक्टर्स. दिस इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आई थिंक दिस वाज one of the questions that was asked to me in all the interviews wherever I gave the interviews. So this is like one of the things that is quite important. Then comes up covariance, correlations. This is in, I am talking about linear algebra. So ये तरह के questions है. Covariance और correlation का क्या relation है? What is the intuition behind? आपके पास एक correlation की value आ गई, आप उससे क्या infer करोगे? Covariance की value आ गई, आप उससे क्या infer करोगे? इट्स नॉट जस्ट दैट कि आपने कोरिलेशन का एक फॉर्मूला बता दिया, कोवेरियंस का एक फॉर्मूला बता दिया, वो नहीं है. देन कमिंग अप टू प्रोबेबिलिटी. प्रोबेबिलिटी में नॉर्मल बायस थ्योरम और ये वो, एंड देन एक नेक्स्ट राउंड में एक क्वेश्चन था, तो आई विल कवर दैट इन द नेक्स्ट राउंड. सो प्रोबेबिलिटी के कुछ क्वेश्चंस, बायस थ्योरम एंड सच स्टफ की, कंडीशनल प्रोबेबिलिटी एंड दोस थिंग्स. So mainly basics. Then coming up to ML. ML में if you see regularizations, regularization was one of the questions. And I'm also saying, like, I'm not saying specifically कि AMEX में ये चीजें पूछी जाती है. I'm also saying जो I'm recovering from my previous interviews also. So, but yeah, all in all, this is the idea that goes on in every interview. So you'll have to have a good grasp of the basics here. So regularization is one of the things that is asked in ML. PCA, dimensionality reduction, that is a very important thing. How eigenvalues and eigenvectors play a good role in PCA, that comes into picture. Precision recall, how does it, like precision recall का कुछ scenario बताओ, where will you use precision, where will you use recall, such stuff. Then bias, variance, and then coming up to very like general and a favorite question for like most of the people out there, because most of the models यही use कर रहे हैं, which is the tree based methods.
Correct.
That is like, you have to be very good at it with bagging, boosting, XGBoost, random forests. When do you use random forest? When do you use bagging? When do you use boosting? What is the difference? How it affects bias? How it affects variance? So all these and tree-based methods are like favorite for everyone, because like currently कंप्यूटेशन और ये सब चीजें इतनी नहीं है कि आप डीप लर्निंग में पूरा घुस जाओ, राइट? इट्स कमिंग अप, चीजें बिल्ड हो रही हैं, बट अभी तक वॉट एवर इट वॉज, द मोस्ट पॉपुलर मेथड्स दैट आर बीइंग यूज्ड इन डेटा साइंस कम्युनिटी इज in an enterprise are tree-based methods. So, and they have been performing well. So, ये है कि tree-based methods तो आपको सही से आना ही चाहिए. You should be very well aware of it. Then comes, as I was like, I had presented my deep learning work, right? So deep learning, I was aware of it. So they also are like considerate of the fact that, are you comfortable with deep learning or not? If you are not, you can definitely say ki, no, I'm not that comfortable with deep learning, or I'm not that comfortable with so and so algorithm of machine learning. Supposedly SVM आपको बहुत नहीं पता. If they ask something about SVM, you can say कि हाँ, SVM में मुझे ये बेसिक पता है, ऐसे डिवाइड होता है, this is the classification method and all those. You don't know much about kernels and everything. You can say clearly कि मुझे इतना पता है, I'm not that aware because I haven't used it much. But whatever you have used, you should be well aware of it.
Correct.
So you can't say कि मैंने BERT यूज किया या मैंने ट्रांसफॉर्मर मॉडल्स यूज किया and I don't know how it works. So if you say कि I've used transformers, then they'll get into it कि now tell me, so how is the encoder stack, how is the decoder stack, what is the attention head, what is the positional encoding and all those stuff. So they'll get into it very well enough. So मेरे साथ वही deep learning में I had presented my work on transformer. So मेरे साथ deep learning में these were the discussions that happened related to BERT model. And then normal techniques like dropouts, what is vanishing gradient, what is this exploding gradient, how would you alleviate these things, how would you cut down on these things, what would you do to prevent all this. Overfitting and underfitting is very, very important. What would you do when you have this much amount of data, and how would you prevent overfitting, how would you prevent underfitting? All these are like very general questions and maybe asked in any one of your interviews, definitely. So I think these were the questions that were asked to me in the third round. So it covers all the topics. And also one thing that I used to think, and I would not want people to think, कि statistics and probability is nothing. We'll see. It's not like that. And you have worked on everything and anything, but if you're not okay with statistics, probability, and linear algebra, you're not going to go anywhere. So I will come to that in preparation strategy, but I had to do it separately. Yeah. So that was one thing that I realized during the interviews. I was like, मैंने काम किया हुआ है IIT बॉम्बे में, बस वो बक दूंगा मेरा हो जाएगा. It's not like that.
Makes sense.
You'll have to have those
Makes
things
sense.
also. So yeah, this was the things that were covered in the third interview. So it covered all of the topics.
Guys, फिर से बता रहे हैं, हमने सैम को कुछ बताने के लिए नहीं बोला. Whatever he told, the topics in linear algebra, probability, stats, we are covering that. Playlist आपको description में मिल जाएगा. Please go and have a watch. We are covering everything in basics, and like he said, these are very important topics, right? इसके बिना तो चीजें डामाडोल होने वाली है.
You'll not be able to clear the interviews, that's for sure. And I failed in certain interviews due to this. So that's why.
Cool.
And we will come to that, I think.
तो बेसिकली ब्रेथ और डेप्थ दोनों चेक हो गया इस राउंड में, राइट? मतलब कितना क्या क्या
हाँ.
इसी में पकड़ के घुस ही गए अंदर वो लोग की नहीं अब बताओ.
हाँ.
बताओ क्यों हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है, राइट?
Right. So statistics, probability, linear algebra you have to have. Other than that, breadth में they'll because AMEX also has something related to the trees. So tree wala cheez was very important to them. So it also depends upon कि company काम क्या कर रही है.
Correct.
And किस पे generally काम कर रही है. So उससे related questions they'll expect you to answer because they can't get anyone who's not aware of those concepts. So वो एक चीज था. And then deep learning, like breadth, I was aware of deep learning, so I told कि हाँ मुझे deep learning आता है, and then they covered deep learning. Otherwise you can definitely stop there. So breadth depends upon you, but हाँ breadth का एक fixed चीज है. वो 3 topics जो मैंने बोले वो आपको करना ही पड़ेगा. You can't get away with that.
Good. Round 3 मस्त रहा. 4th में क्या किया फिर? सब तो यही भी पूछ लिया लग रहा है.
हाँ इसमें पूछ लिया था सारा. 4th में भी all in all the questions were almost similar. The questions were almost similar. But there was a coding question involved in the 4th interview. So it was not that I had to write a proper code. I had to write a pseudo code. So what I remember, it was like normal. I think I don't know. It might be normal for people, but as you also know, I was not. I'll say that in front of everybody. I was good in coding, but I'm not the best in coding. So
nice. Very generous. He codes. आगे बोलो. झूठ मत बताया करो लोगों को. गलत दिलासे मत बोलो. हाँ.
So yeah, I code, but yeah. So that's the thing. So ये पूछा गया था. The question was related to longest increasing subsequence.
I see.
And it was not कि आप directly code कर दो. So the interviewer wanted कि I should think it out loud. Okay, I'm doing this. I'm thinking of this. I'm thinking of the recursive approach, and then how would I get to the dynamic approach? So ये interview was more like code आप करोगे तो how do you think?
I see.
It's not like कि उन्होंने question दे दिया आपने लिख दिया हो गया. So you have to, if आप लिख भी रहे हो, so when I was writing the pseudo code, I had to speak it out loud कि yeah. And also this kind of verifies or validates कि आप कहीं से copy नहीं कर रहे हो in that online scenario.
True.
So yeah, I think that was that is also one of the things. So you have to be good at that also. So I had to speak it out loud what I was doing. And then there was an interesting question in this related to probability, which was related to the calculations. So it was like I might not be properly at it, but it kind of went like you have 5-week learners. It was related to the tree. 5-week learners, and the decision was made based on the majority votings, right? And those learners had 90% accuracy rate, 10% of error rate. So what is the probability of getting a correct decision?
Oh,
right.
Good.
So this involved permutation and combination.
So
because it's majority voting as well as probability. So this was one of the question. It was a good question, and it was not that key. I'll say hands up. Key. It was not that key. I just did it in the first approach. So I told my approach. I got to the answer, and that was wrong at the first time. But the interviewer was like saying, ki, "Yeah, you are on a right path. You're somewhere missing this and this." Not pointing out specifically to this and this, but saying, ki, "Okay, I think you need to think a bit more." And then again, when I thought of it, I was obviously on the right path. I thought of it, and then when I got the answer, that was the correct answer. So that was also like the interviewer wanted to gauge out, okay, whenever he's given a problem, how does he approach it? So you might be wrong in the first attempt. That doesn't matter. So you don't need to get nervous. I got a bit nervous, but it was fine. Because I was also given the feedback you are on the right path. So that gave me a bit of confidence. But if you are completely wrong also doesn't mean that you have to get nervous. You can think and change your answers then and there. Like luckily the interviewers were quite patient in AMEX. I am not aware. Like whatever the interviews I had given for me, all of the interviews were good. Generally, the interviews are good. So I think they'll all be patient about the solution that you're going for, and you need to just reach to a right solution. They'll give their inputs when and if needed.
Awesome.
Yeah. So these were the rounds that happened. So they checked the programming also. They checked applications also. They checked the probability and all the other concepts also, breadth and length, everything.
Seems like सारे technical rounds है, right? All of them seems technical. कोई HR manager ऐसा round.
Yeah, I think those communication and all those stuff were already seen in first one.
Presentation and all, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it made sense of an HR. So HR was like just for negotiations and all those stuff.
Sanyam, पैसे की बात करते HR वाले चलो सही पैसे की बात करें. Okay, awesome. हम पैसे की बात नहीं करेंगे वैसे यहाँ पे. Like it's against the policies and all. Rounds तो बढ़िया बताए. Let's talk about preparation strategy.
जो क्वेश्चन मुझे नहीं आते थे, मैं उसको वापस से प्रिपेयर करता था. या तो YouTube से या किसी से अगर इजी वे में समझना है तो किसी फ्रेंड से पूछ लिया. So I used to do that. And धीरे धीरे क्या हुआ कि अब मेरा my depth and my breadth increased a lot during the interviews itself.